Hi, my name is Isabel Ashton, and I'm presenting on the Black Lives Matter movement. So what is Black Lives Matter movement? It's not only a hashtag, but a movement aimed at ending anti-Black racism and violence in all of its permutations. It fights against police brutality and ongoing injustices of Black Americans. So who started this movement? This movement was started by these three Black women named Patrisse Cullors, Alicia Garza, and Opal Tometi. When did they start this movement? About 10 years ago in 2013, these three women started the Black Lives Matter movement. They were tired of seeing and experiencing the many injustices of Black Americans across the country. When was the start of the movement? It is remarkable that some of the largest marches against racism and police brutality occurred while the United States had a Black president and a Black attorney general. The persistence of racist ideas and practices both during and following the Obama presidency provides insight into the deep nature of racial ideologies in America. Why did the Black Lives Matter movement start? The BLM movement started after the death of 17-year-old Black boy Trayvon Martin by a white man, George Zimmerman, who was acquitted of all charges instead of put in prison. The three women in charge of the BLM movement were tired of the injustices of Black people and wanted to make a nationwide movement to help spread awareness and hopes for a change. Trayvon Martin. As Trayvon Martin was walking home from the store with a bag of Skittles and a can of Arizona iced tea, his neighbor, George Zimmerman, called the police on him because he looked suspicious. Even though the police told Zimmerman to not approach Trayvon Martin, he did anyways, with a loaded gun. After accusing Trayvon Martin of committing a crime he wasn't doing, an altercation between the two happened, which ended with Trayvon getting shot and killed. Zimmerman got to go to court and defend his side of the story, where he was ultimately given no punishment for murdering the 17-year-old Black boy. So victims of police brutality. Each year there are about 1,200 police-caused killings. A little over 25% of these deaths are African Americans, even though they only account for 13% of the population. There have been thousands of Black Americans wrongfully murdered by police who did not receive justice. With today's society of easy-to-access social media, lots of these killings were filmed and spread throughout the nation, sparking outrage from the Black community. Protests throughout the nation. The Black Lives Matter movement has been at the front line of all police brutality protests. Even though it just started with three women, it gained millions of supporters throughout the nation who wanted to see a change in how Black Americans were treated in the police and justice systems. Even though most of these protests started out peaceful, police often would show up and use their force to intimidate the protesters. As seen in the picture, there are very many police lined up with riot gear and zip ties used as handcuffs on the peaceful protesters. The Black Lives Matter movement was never started for the purpose of causing terror with protests between the police. They understand the power of using their voices to get their message heard in an attempt for much-needed change. So there was many support throughout the nation. The Black Lives Matter movement has inspired millions of people throughout America. Many athletes and celebrities have used their platform and fan base to help spread awareness of the ongoing injustices of people of color in America. As seen in the image, LeBron James and his teammates take a knee during the national anthem to protest the racial injustices throughout the nation. Involvement of racism. Much has changed since the time of the Civil Rights Movement. However, there are many similarities within the BLM movement. Racial fears and racial injustices are still at large throughout the nation. They have just evolved over time. BLM Hope for the Future America. The purpose of the Black Lives Matter movement was to promote change in the justice system while reinventing a safer, more intellectual police system that has no racial motivation. Even though the American society is not typically fast with change at this extreme, it is much needed for the equality and justice of Black Americans. And here are my three sources.